Ever imagine yourself, like, building something massive,
Mhm.
something historic with your own two hands? We're diving into the world of wood caulkers,
Yeah.
those who waterproofed ships
Right.
with your collection of career guides and even some AI recruitment tips. Seems like a fascinating mix.
It is. What's striking is how this takes us back to a time when shipbuilding, relied on this specialized craftsmanship,
Yeah.
a stark contrast to the technology-driven approaches
Right.
we often think of today.
Yeah,
This deep dive seems to be pulling you towards the enduring human element in this craft.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's get specific.
Okay.
What did an oakum packer actually do on the job?
Picture yourself surrounded by the sights and smells of a shipyard.
I like it.
Your task, to ensure those grand wooden ships are watertight.
Oh,
Get any modern caulking guns you might be picturing.
Right.
This is old school, driving oakum,
Ah,
a special hemp fiber,
wow.
into the seams between planks, using a tool called a caulking iron.
There's got to be a real art to that.
Yeah,
A certain feel for the materials.
absolutely.
The career guide mentioned hammering ropes and lines into the seams as well.
Right.
What's the purpose of that?
You're right. It's about precision and strength.
Mm-hmm.
Those ropes provide additional reinforcement.
Okay.
And then to really seal the deal,
Yeah.
hot, molten pitch is applied over everything,
Oh, wow.
creating an impermeable barrier against the sea.
Wow.
Imagine the safety considerations alone with
Yeah.
that part of the process.
Yeah, really, it sounds like quite the sensory experience. The smells, the heat, the physicality of it all.
Oh, yeah.
The guide really dove into the pros and cons of this line of work.
It did.
What stood out to you?
The guide highlighted job security as a major process.
Yeah,
Those skills were certainly in demand,
right.
and you'd be creating something tangible
Mm-hmm.
with a historical weight,
Yeah,
but it's certainly not for everyone.
right.
The physical demands, the exposure to the elements,
Yeah,
working in potentially cramped spaces, all important factors to consider.
right, right.
What are your thoughts on the job security aspect,
Mhm.
especially today with advancements in shipbuilding technology?
It makes you wonder how those skills translate to the modern world.
Yeah,
While those original shipbuilding techniques might be less common now,
right.
the career guide also mentioned that this type of work isn't entirely a thing of the past.
You're right. There are still niches
Mm-hmm.
where those skills are incredibly valuable.
Okay.
We're talking historical restoration projects,
Okay.
museums,
Mm-hmm.
even private collectors who want to preserve these vintage vessels.
That's where this profession gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
The guide mentioned example career paths.
Mhm.
Did those offer any insight into how someone might start out in this field?
It does.
Even today?
It's actually structured a lot like you might imagine an apprenticeship model.
Okay.
You'd begin by assisting experienced caulkers,
Okay.
learning the ropes, quite
Yeah.
literally, by observing and assisting with every part of the process.
Right.
Selecting the oakum, mastering the caulking iron,
Wow.
even handling that hot pitch.
It's like a hands-on shipbuilding school.
And it is.
Learning from seasoned veterans. It
Yeah.
makes you think about how this kind of knowledge is passed down through generations.
Absolutely. And the career guide does a good job of highlighting that.
Right.
According to these excerpts, there are distinct stages: entry-level caulker, junior caulker, experienced caulker,
Mm-hmm.
and finally the senior caulker.
Okay.
Each stage reflects increasing responsibility and a deeper understanding of the craft.
Okay, I have to ask, senior caulker sounds pretty impressive.
It is.
What sets them apart in this field?
Right. A senior caulker isn't just someone who's mastered the hands-on skills.
Yeah, right.
They possess a deep, almost intuitive understanding of shipbuilding itself.
Wow.
This excerpt mentions they might oversee entire caulking operations,
Okay.
collaborate directly with shipbuilders,
Wow.
even develop new techniques.
It's like they're not just playing the notes, they're composing the entire symphony of caulking.
Speaking of composing, it made me think of something else in these materials, the whole AI aspect.
Yeah.
It feels almost jarring to have this centuries-old craft discussed alongside algorithms.
It's an interesting juxtaposition, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet, even this career guide touches on how AI is influencing recruitment,
Really?
even for these specialized roles.
So are robots coming for the caulking jobs? What did the guide have to say about that?
Not to worry, it's not about robots replacing humans.
Okay.
The career guide explains how AI is being used as a tool in the recruitment process.
Good.
Think of it like having a highly efficient assistant who can scan through countless CVs,
Right.
identifying relevant keywords and experience that match the job description.
Okay, so it's more about streamlining the initial screening process.
Right.
But that still seems like a big change for a profession rooted in such traditional methods.
It speaks to how technology is filtering into almost every aspect of our lives.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
The guide also mentioned how AI can even suggest interview questions
What?
to help employers find the best candidates.
Wow.
Imagine that, an algorithm trying to assess someone's suitability for a hands-on craft, like oakum packing.
It makes you wonder what those questions would even be. Do you prefer working with hemp fiber or algorithms?
Right.
But seriously, it raises some interesting questions about what it takes to excel in this kind of field.
Yeah.
Looking at the career stages outlined in the guide, it seems like experience plays a huge role, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Remember those example profiles we talked about?
Yeah.
They highlight how those different career stages represent a real progression of skill and responsibility.
Okay.
Starting as an entry-level caulker, you're primarily focused on observation and learning the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
But as you advance to junior caulker,
Right.
you're given more hands-on responsibility, developing your own techniques.
It's like the difference between reading about baking a cake and actually getting your hands dirty with the flour and sugar.
Right.
You learn by doing,
Exactly.
by making mistakes and refining your approach.
Yeah.
And that's where the junior caulker stage becomes so crucial.
Absolutely.
They're developing that feel for the material, the eye for detail,
Right?
the ability to spot inconsistencies,
Yes.
which I imagine becomes even more critical as they move up to the experienced caulker level.
It does.
What stood out to you about that stage in the career path?
Well, the guide suggests that at this level, caulkers often take on more leadership roles.
Okay.
They might be overseeing a team of caulkers, mentoring those newer to the field, ensuring the quality of work meets those high standards.
Right.
They might even start to specialize in a particular type of ship or caulking technique.
It sounds like at that point, you'd be building quite a reputation for yourself within the field, becoming known for your expertise in a specific area. It's fascinating how this seemingly niche profession offers so much room for individual growth and specialization.
It speaks to the depth and complexity of this craft,
Right.
which is something we often overlook when we think about these traditional trades.
Yeah.
And it's this expertise that makes them so valuable, even as technology continues to advance.
You touched on something really interesting earlier.
Yeah.
The idea of AI being able to assess someone's suitability for this kind of work as these algorithms become more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Do you think they could ever truly replicate that human touch,
That's a good question.
that ability to understand the nuances of a craft like this?
It's a question worth exploring.
Right.
While AI can analyze vast amounts of data and identify patterns,
Right.
can it truly grasp the intuition,
Yeah.
the almost instinctive understanding that comes from years of experience?
Right.
The senior caulker, for instance, embodies this depth of knowledge.
Right.
They possess this almost intuitive sense of how a ship should feel,
Right.
how the wood should respond.
Right. Wow.
It's difficult to imagine an algorithm replicating that.
Especially in those historical restoration projects
Right.
where you're dealing with vessels that have their own unique quirks and challenges.
Exactly.
It seems like that's where the human element would be irreplaceable.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Those projects often require adapting traditional techniques,
Right.
thinking creatively
Right.
to solve problems that might not have straightforward solutions.
It's problem solving, but with a historical lens.
Right.
So where does that leave us with this idea of AI and its role in a field like this? It's like we're looking at two sides of the same coin, you know? On one side, you have this ancient craft passed down through generations, relying on touch and intuition. And on the other, you have AI analyzing data, trying to quantify what might be inherently unquantifiable.
And yet they're both present in the materials you shared.
Right, yeah.
It speaks to a larger conversation about the balance between tradition and technology.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating is that the source material doesn't present this as an either-or scenario.
Right. It's not about robots replacing shipwrights.
Right.
It's more nuanced than that.
Exactly.
Right.
Take those AI-powered recruitment tools.
Right.
They might help connect skilled craftspeople with opportunities they might not have found otherwise.
Oh.
It could even lead to a resurgence of interest in these traditional trades.
Wow. So AI could become a bridge,
Yeah.
introducing a new generation to the satisfaction of building something with their own two hands.
And perhaps that's a key takeaway from this deep dive,
Yeah.
that human element will always be essential,
Mhm.
whether we're talking about the precision of a master caulker
Right.
or the creativity of a shipwright adapting to new challenges.
It reminds me of something you said earlier about the senior caulker possessing this deep, almost instinctive understanding of their craft.
Yeah.
That's not something you can easily program into an algorithm.
It's that intangible quality of experience,
Ah.
of judgment honed over years,
Mhm.
of working with your hands,
Yeah.
feeling the materials,
Mhm.
understanding their nuances.
Right.
And it's not just limited to shipbuilding.
You're right. It applies to any skilled trade, any
Right.
profession where mastery comes from a combination of knowledge and hands-on experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate the value of those who dedicate themselves to these crafts,
Mhm.
keeping these traditions alive, even as the world around them changes.
So, as we resurface from this deep dive into the world of wood caulkers,
Right.
I'm curious what's sticking with you. What's the one thing you want our listener to walk away with?
For me, it's the enduring power of human skill in a world increasingly driven by automation.
Yeah.
The source material highlighted how, even in the face of technological advancements,
Right.
there's a certain magic to these age-old crafts, a
Yeah.
blend of artistry and precision that continues to resonate, even today.
It's like a reminder to never underestimate the value of hands-on expertise. That ability to create and build something tangible, to leave your mark on the world in a way that's both enduring and deeply human.
And he knows.
Yeah.
Maybe this deep dive will inspire someone out there to look into these kinds of crafts,
Yeah.
to discover the satisfaction of working with their hands,
Right.
keeping these traditions alive for generations to come.
Now that's a thought. To our listener,
Yeah.
if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity,
Mm.
maybe it's time to explore those interests further.
Yeah,
Pick up a tool, learn a new skill,
absolutely.
and discover the magic of making something with your own two hands.
Yes.
Until next time, keep diving.